Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Danny Neth with Gardening for Gains, and today's video, I'm just going to run through how I plan my garden for this year, what I'm growing for my CSA customers, and just a couple quick tips as I'm running through the planning of my garden. Things that I'm going to improve on from last year, and just stuff I've learned over the years and what I'm implementing to optimize the garden this year. So, hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, feel free to drop me a comment down in the comments section or hit me up on any of my social channels at gardening for gains. So every year I try to plan out my garden using just a notebook and a pen and paper or whatever. So this year I figured I needed to get it the actual dimensions, so that I can know an accurate count of the number of root pouches or planting spots that I'm actually going to be able to have in my garden. So Old Farmer's Almanac has a 7-day free trial gardening software, so that's what I used to plan my garden this year. Really simple to use. You just log in, put in all your information, and you can even customize your frost dates. So from there, you just kind of start it up and choose the size of your garden. So mine was 22 feet wide by 59 feet long. So getting started with the software is pretty easy. You can see that there's like some line and shape tools up at the top. So what I did was got started with that, built my basic structures in my garden, and just made sure that everything was completely to scale. And that was my biggest thing. And the reason why I'm doing it through the software rather than writing it down, because I didn't feel like it was very accurate when I was writing it, doing it freehand and just relying on measurements by doing toe to toe, foot measurements. So this is a lot more accurate and just a really easy way to kind of customize everything and make sure that you're fitting everything into the garden that you want to, and really giving yourself the ability to create a solid garden plan. So after creating the outline of the garden, just created the gateway, and then from there, I'm creating the actual the beds where I will be placing my root pouches. And root pouches are fabric pots that are made out of recycled water bottles. So that's something that I've been intrigued about ever since I started working at A.M. Leonard and just been in the horticultural industry. But it's a very unique growing pot, and it basically creates a very dense root structure by using root entrapment. And so as the plants grow, the roots grow into the fabric, and then that prunes the roots and then sends a flush of growth back in. So as you can see here, I've got a few different, I've got 5 different beds. We're going to be planting a huge variety of crops, but really dialing in on stuff that I can actually eat and stuff that we've been very successful with growing. So here, coming up, you can see our list of plants. Got, a wide variety of, root crops, herbs, leafy greens, your basics like your tomatoes, your peppers, and then we're also doing, things like snow peas or snap peas, onions, garlic, and really just trying to maximize what we grow best so that we can really provide for our CSA customers this year. And so the next part of really, me optimizing my grow is to set the root pouches down and really see how many we can fit into the space. So as you can see, this is a little bit of a tedious task. I created a, one root pouch that fit the exact dimensions of the 15-gallon root pouches that I use, which are 18 inches in diameter. So this should be fairly accurate and really give me a good sense of how many root pouches I'm going to be able to fit into this garden. And then while I'm doing this, it's not only to maximize the space, but really plan out what we're going to be putting in those spaces. So the way that I kind of was looking at things last year, or realizing that we needed to look at things this way, was how many root pouches is it going to take to feed one person or one family? And then how many rotations are we going to be able to grow within those root pouches? So that's where things get a little messy, and it's imperative to make a plan like this where you're really showing the accurate dimensions of the garden, you're allowing for growth and airflow, and a place where you can actually walk through the garden. So that's what this is about. And and I'm kind of like glossing over a little bit of like the details about this software because it's so much better than what what I'm kind of showing right now, but the basics of it is just to get your plan set first. So my problem is always kind of dreaming big, but then not setting that plan into motion, or not like realizing the true potential and the true limits of that plan. So here you can see that I'm going to be able to fit 19 root pouches in that first row and 36 root pouches in the middle row. And then on the ends here, we'll be able to fit 29 in each of those rows. So really from here, we've just got to think about, where the sun is coming from. And I think the way that I'm going to do it is put, as you're looking at it from the left, we'll put the tomatoes in the root pouches on the left, more of the greens like spinach, lettuce, and then also some root crops like carrots in the middle rows. And then on the right side here, we'll have our potatoes. And in the next section here, we really get into the planning aspects. And this is a really cool feature, is where you can actually switch on a square foot gardening mode. So that's what I did, since that's kind of the methodology that I'm using, even when I'm planting in the root pouches. So, even if I have a tomato in a 15-gallon root pouch, there's a pretty good chance that I'll have that tomato surrounded by a variety of things. And as you can see here, on the very left side, we're going to have green onions. And, we'll probably let some of those go to like actually bulb onions by the time it's all said and done. And then, because we're going to have garlic in that next plot. So it's also important to note that if you're, as you're doing your plan on this software, you can really make, so I kind of got ahead of myself here. And the key here is to, if you're going to do something like succession planning, you need to lay down one of the crops. So in the case of the green onions, lay down the green onions, double click on it, and then that will open up a dialog box where you can select planting date and anticipated harvest date. And then, because there's actually a feature, so you can see up in the top right of the toolbar, there's different layers that you can add, and then also different months that you can filter by. So, if you're doing either growing year round, or, just want to do succession planning, this is a huge, a huge time saver. And as you can see, I figured this out late. So I would have to go through literally every single plant to optimize it, or just like clear them all out and then copy paste, like I did in the beginning with the root pouches. But, so as you can see here, I'm going through just kind of getting things set up. And, even if you don't do how I did with, even if you do what I did and make the mistake and don't plan it out with the planting dates and the harvest dates and all that stuff, don't worry, because the app actually kind of spits all of that data out for you anyways. So it'll tell you when you should be planting your seeds, when you transplant, anticipated harvest dates, and all of that stuff. So so it broke it up even into a couple different parts of the season. So like obviously you can plant carrots twice through the year, maybe once in spring and then once in the fall for a pre-winter harvest. So so really here I'm just kind of going through getting the rest of the garden set up. We got basil, cilantro, dill, and rosemary, and I think that's it out in the herb garden. And then the rest is just going to be like greens, carrots in that middle section, bell peppers, tomatoes on the left, some melons growing vertically as well. And so here is kind of what I was talking about with the the real intricate breakdown of your garden. So it's going to give you the total size, soil type, sun, and then finally it'll give you the garden plan. So from here you have the option to actually print it out. So I never print things out usually. I feel like an old man doing that, but I did print it out just because it gives you a good idea. You need that roadmap when you're out in the garden, and I kind of want to like add it into like either a notebook, my gardening notebook, where I'll be keeping track of all the different applications of fertilizers or organic pesticides that I'll be making. But it's also just good to get this laid out and have that roadmap for yourself. So as you can see, we're going to be pretty packed throughout the year. The things on the left and really on the right, those are very permanent plants. So there will be like minimal turnover there, but in the middle is where all the magic will happen. And so from here, just going back into my plan. And here's where it really breaks down the details of the number of plants and then the planting times. And as I said, talking about when you start the seeds, when you do the transplant, and when your anticipated harvest are. So it's pretty detailed. And, what I did here is I just took like print screens, I think, of everything. Whether it was the planting guide or the actual plan. I think I just did the planting guide and then the plan, and just going to use that to kind of guide me throughout the process of the spring and the planting season here. So really my next step is just to kind of break it down even further on my Excel sheet that I started creating of the different succession plantings that I'll do, and really just break it down root pouch by root pouch in order to feed people. We're looking for a target of being able to feed provide for about 10 to 20 people. So hope you enjoyed this little process video of how I planned out my garden. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment and I'll be happy to help. But thanks for watching, and as always, I appreciate it.